What is up, everybody? Back with another top 10 here today. And with this one, I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite power trios in hard rock and metal. A lot of great bands that are three pieces. And with this, I'm going to be, of course, including bands that are primarily known for being a three piece. Of course, several of these I'm going to talk about at one point might have been a four piece or whatever the situation may be, but they're primarily known as being a three piece band. And as usual, it's just my favorites here, in my opinion. So here we go. Starting off the list at number 10, I'm going to go with the band Tank. Now, this is a new wave British heavy metal band, awesome classic stuff, and this one could be a little bit tricky because, now there's two different versions of the band. After the first two albums, they did expand to being a four-piece, but on those first two original albums, Filth Hounds of Hades from 1982, also Power of the Hunter from 82, their classic best albums, they were a three-piece. So I'm including them on the list here. Good, fast, dirty, new wave British heavy metal, pretty similar sound and style, I'd say, to Motorhead. The first album was produced by Fast Eddie Clarke, so definitely kind of similar sound. I'm sure they were influenced greatly by Motorhead, but I'm sure most of y'all know Tank, but if you like classic Motorhead, you'll probably especially like the first two albums, so check those out. Tank, great band, my number 10 here. Next up at number 9, I'm going to go with Venom, another great classic band that eventually did expand, and currently there's Venom and Venom Inc. The Venom with Kronos right now is a three-piece, but then you got Venom Inc. But that original three-piece of Venom with Abaddon on the drums, Kronos on vocals and bass, and of course Mantis on the guitar, amazing. Very, very influential band, especially to the extreme metal subgenre. Of course, they pretty much tokened the term black metal with their 1982 album, Black Metal. You got Welcome to Hell from 81, At War with Satan, and Possessed, which are the next two after that, which aren't as popular. They're not quite as good. But those first two albums, good classic, very influential stuff, and great band. So, yeah, they are my number 9, Venom. Coming in at number 8 is Destruction, a good classic thrash band here. They're from Germany, in the Teutonic Four, of course. And it's another band that was originally a three-piece, and then they had some lineup changes, expanded to a four-piece, and then they came back to being a three-piece in the early 2000s up through the mid-2000s, and then currently they're a four-piece again. But when you think of classic Destruction, you're thinking a three-piece band here. Of course, those first handful of releases, Infernal Overkill, Eternal Devastation, the first EP, Sentence of Death, amazing, classic, influential, very heavy, evil-sounding, just aggressive thrash. Schmear, of course, the voice of the band, he went about 10 years from 90 to 99 not being in the band, which is weird, but you got to have him on vocals. Even though he's not the greatest singer, he has a very distinct, snarling growl and shriek, which is very instantly recognizable. So that's like not having Dave Mustaine as the singer of Megadeth. It's kind of a weird time for the band, but a lot of awesome stuff with them, especially those first handful of releases, as I said. So they got to make the list here. Destruction, number 8. They tore me down. They threw me out. They shut my mouth. Next up at number 7 is Corner, a really great classic thrash band here again. These guys are from Switzerland, and they are the first band on the list that through and through was a three-piece on all of their albums. They're currently together, still a three-piece, even though there is a lineup change with the drummer, but they got the same bassist, vocalist, and the same guitarist as they did on all the albums currently. 5 full lengths, all of them are killer, super technical, amazing musicianship. Mental Vortex, I did list in my top 50 thrash albums of all time, so huge fan of that one. Just killer stuff, very technical, as I said, heavy at the same time, though, and just killer top to bottom on that album especially, but very solid discography. All these albums are pretty cool for the most part, so got to make the list. Corner, number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Budgie, really classic band here, super influential on heavy metal. They were big influence on Metallica, and they're really one of the main reasons I started thinking about putting this list together. I mean, I've thought about it before, but with the passing of their frontman, Burke Shelley, who has a really cool voice, and he was a key member of the band for all the years. He passed away a couple days back, so RIP to him. Bass and vocals of the band, really cool stuff with him, but this band, very heavy for the times. They're from Wales, and if you listen to like the opening track on each of the first 3 albums, Guts, Whiskey River especially is maybe my favorite song by them, and Bread Fan, just all killer opening up those albums. Very heavy, pretty fast song in Bread Fan's case, but those other ones very doomy, heavy, big riff. The bass tone and playing is amazing, and most of their classic stuff, you know, first like 6-7 albums is really good for the most part. Super influential stuff, as I said. Metallica covered a couple of their songs. They were big fans. So RIP to Burke, and great band here. So they are in at number 6 for me. Budgie.
Don't waste my time.
Next up at number 5 is Triumph, a good classic hard rock band here. Some of their stuff, borderline metal, but generally I'd call them a hard rock band. From Canada, of course. A lot of awesome stuff. You got Rick Emmett, who is a freaking beast on vocals and guitar. It's always super impressive to me whenever in a 3-piece band, the singer is doing guitar as well. He plays all the guitar. That's awesome. But Gilmore, of course, does sing some of the songs. He is the drummer. Also impressive, and Mike Levine on the bass. But as far as these albums go, a lot of awesome stuff. The debut is really good, like Street Fighter, good, big, hard rockin' riff, and just great song. One of their best of all time. Allied Forces, Never Surrender. I even like Surveillance a lot. You know, all this stuff I could list. Just a Game I've got on vinyl, which has Lay It on the Line, of course, probably their most popular song. But amazing band. My favorite trio from Canada, I will say. So they are here at number 5, Triumph. Coming in at number 4 is Sodom, another great classic German thrash band here. My favorite in the Teutonic 4, and really they just got a shitload of awesome stuff. And they were a 3-piece, I think, until their very most recent album, Genesis 19, which is it's a good album. Frank Blackfire did return to the band, which is pretty cool. The guitarist they had back way in the 80s on Persecution Mania and Agent Orange, which of course are a couple of their best albums of all time. Personally, my favorite is M16 from 2001, which is just killer. One of my favorite thrash albums ever. I did have it in my top 50. But, you know, Tapping the Vein, Obsessed by Cruelty, which is a very influential album. Their first one to, you know, it's first wave black metal type of stuff. Very influential on extreme metal and black metal in general. But as I said, a ton of great stuff with Sodom. Tom Angel Ripper, of course, the lone constant member on vocals and bass. He's been there since the beginning. Cool voice. Yeah, Sodom, amazing band, number 4. Next up at number 3 is Exciter, another Canadian 3-piece here, and I did make a slight mistake before. I said Triumph is my favorite from Canada, but it's actually Exciter. I like them slightly better, both amazing, but Exciter, just, you know, the speed, the heaviness, I do slightly prefer here, and just amazing stuff, especially on the first 3 albums. Alan Johnson on bass, Dan Beeler on vocals and drums. He is just amazing to be able to play that fast and be able to sing. I love his like high shrieking voice, which is just amazing, super unique. And John Ricci or Ricky or Richie, however he pronounces his name, on guitar, amazing tone, great riffs, great solos. It might be Ricci, it's Ricci. That's how you spell his last name. But man, those first 3 albums are killer. Love, of course, Heavy Metal Maniac. That's a classic album. Some argue that it's the first thrash album of all time. Came out a little bit before Kill 'Em All. Is it speed metal? Is it thrash metal? It's up for debate. Whatever. It's good, classic, great metal. And Violence and Force, of course, from 84. And Long Live the Loud, which has my favorite Exciter song called I Am the Beast. Just amazing stuff. Get goosebumps anytime I hear that song. It's so good. So Of course, they have other great stuff. They are currently a three-piece now, but of course, like a lot of these other bands, they expanded a little bit, they recorded some albums as a four-piece and whatnot, but yeah, those first three albums are killer. Exciter's amazing, so they're here at number 3. Next up at number 2 is Immortal, another great classic band here that I freaking love. They're my second favorite black metal band. They mix in some very thrashy elements almost to where they're like a blackened thrash band in some spots. Like you could say that about like At the Heart of Winter. Or it's debatable what you want to call it exactly, but very thrashy black metal. And they're extremely powerful, very loud, very amazing, play great, very tight, and just one of my favorite bands, so I am including them here at number 2, Immortal. And a couple of honorable mentions I've got listed. Shooter, which is another cool black metal band from Norway. Raven, another great new wave of British heavy metal band that was pretty close to making it. And I will say Rush is an honorable mention. I'm sure a lot of people have them in their top 10. That's cool. Just personally, I think they're a bit overrated. Don't hate them. I specifically like their first 2 albums. The Best, self-titled, and Fly By Night, just before they got super progressive. Just kind of like that grittier, raw, straightforward, classic 70s hard rock from them, which is awesome on those first 2 albums, but some of the stuff afterward is cool too, just not my cup of tea exactly. So honorable mention to them, and on to my number 1. And taking the number 1 spot for me has got to be Motorhead. Just amazing classic band. At this point, they're in my top 10 or 15 of all time. Really love most of their stuff, and they have a ton of albums, over 20 studio albums. They had 2 different main 3-piece bands, which the original was Fast Eddie Clarke on guitar, Phil Taylor on drums, and of course Lemmy, who always fronted the band, on bass and vocals. Great classic stuff with that. My favorite album from those first 5, I'd say, is Overkill, but really, really dig all of it. My other favorites would be, I'd say, of course, Ace of Spades and Iron Fist, which I think is really good and underrated. But definitely Overkill from that first original 5 there is my favorite. Then they had Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy come in on Another Perfect Day, so still a 3-piece at that point. And then from, as far as the recording goes, from Orgasmatron to Sacrifice, so 86 to 95, 10 years, they were a 4-piece band with Wurzel and Phil Campbell on guitar, plus whatever drummer they had at the time, and Lemmy. And then after that, they were a 3-piece until the end of their career there with Mickey D, Phil Campbell, and Lemmy, which some of my favorite Motorhead albums, including my favorite Motorhead album, Inferno, was with that last 3-piece. Love Kiss of Death and a lot of other stuff from them. So, man, just amazing band. Very influential, classic. They were around forever. They freaking have a ton of albums. So that's the easy, obvious number 1 pick for me in this list here. The top 10 trios in hard rock and metal. Motorhead, number 1 for me. And as usual, I like to know what y'all think. So give me your top 10 trios in hard rock and metal. And until next time, thank you for watching.